You check the progress bar again, even though it moved 3 seconds ago. That is the whole trick, really. Not the grand plan, not the spreadsheet. The little daily move so small it barely deserves a sentence, which is exactly why it can sneak past the part of your brain that likes to throw a chair when asked to change. 1%. Laughably small. The sort of thing your ego dismisses and your future quietly caches. And then you do the extremely human thing. You look at the first week, see almost nothing, and start acting like the machine is broken, as if a seed should sprint. It doesn't. Seeds are rude like that. People hate this part because our brains are terrible at growth that compounds. Researchers at the Institute for Perception TNO showed people a line that climbed faster and faster and asked where it would end up. 2/3 of them guessed less than 10% of the real number. Less than 10%. You would bet money your guess was close. You would lose all of it. That is what your intuition does with compounding. It looks at a curve and thinks, sure, modest little thing, no drama here. Then it misses the cliff. And that matters because your life is mostly curves, not straight lines. The book you are reading, the savings you are building, the habit you are trying to keep, the work you are trying to get good at. All of it feels like a flat hallway while you are inside it. You walk, nothing explodes. Therefore, nothing is happening. Very elegant. Very stupid. So you quit in the part that looks like nothing. That is the core embarrassment. Not that you lack discipline in some heroic, tragic way. You just left during the quiet middle when the work had not yet become visible enough to flatter you. You expected the effort to announce itself like a marching band. Instead, it was doing paperwork. And of course, that middle is where the damage happens. Not always in one dramatic collapse. Usually in tiny administrative betrayals. You skip one workout because your knees are tired. You stop putting the extra money aside because this month feels expensive. You abandon the half-finished draft because it still sounds like a draft, which is apparently a moral offense now. The thing did not fail loudly, it got tired. You got bored, that is more common and more insulting. There is a reason the middle feels like wet cardboard. Benezi and Brendel at Northwestern found that people push hard at the start and near the finish, then fall apart in the middle, where both the start and the goal look far away. That is not a character flaw. It is a navigation problem wearing a fake mustache. At the beginning, the work feels fresh. At the end, the finish line starts talking to you. In the middle, nothing is close enough to emotionally bribe you. In the middle is where almost everything lives. So you tell yourself you need more motivation, which is adorable. The middle does not need inspiration. It needs a tiny action so small your resistance cannot mount a legal challenge. 1 page, 1 transfer, 1 set. 1 paragraph you are allowed to write badly. Not because small is noble. Because small is hard to argue with. Your brain cannot turn itself into a courtroom over 2 minutes of effort. It can only sulk and comply. That is why the clean, dramatic version of self-improvement is mostly theater. The big speech, the Monday reset. The personal reboot, which is just your personality putting on a tie. The actual useful move is much duller. Thaler and Benartzi at the University of Chicago studied workers who let their savings climb by 1 percentage point at every pay raise. Over 40 months, it went from almost 4% to almost 14%. Nearly 4 times more, and no one ever felt a pay cut. The change worked because it was too small to argue with. Too small to argue with. That line should be carved into the wall of every room, where people keep promising to change their lives. Because that is how most real change survives. Not by winning some glorious battle against your old habits, by dodging the battle entirely. You let the new thing arrive through the side door, while the old thing is still checking its coat. The mind notices, sort of. Then it decides this is not worth a scene, which honestly is the highest compliment it can give. And yes, this is the part where the internet usually starts yelling about systems as if naming a thing gives it a gym membership. System, process, framework, fine, whatever. The point is much more boring and much more useful. Make the good version of the thing so small, it slips through the day without asking for permission. I did this last year with a writing routine I kept threatening to start. I told myself I would write 200 words before breakfast, which in theory is nothing. In practice, it was enough to provoke a constitutional debate. In my head at 8 in the morning, so I shrank it until it was laughable. 1 sentence, just 1. No one applauded, but the document opened. That was the part that mattered. The rest followed badly, which is still followed. And that is the hidden ugliness here. We keep waiting for the habit to feel meaningful before we trust it. Meaning is often a late guest. First comes the repetition, then much later, the identity. The gym attendance that looks pathetic for months. The savings rate that looks like pocket lint. The daily page that looks like a joke until, inconveniently, it is a book. The problem is that you keep using your present mood as if it were a forecast. It is not a forecast, it is weather. Bad weather is not a verdict. It is just damp. Still, you get trapped by visibility. If the change is not obvious, it feels fake. If it is not painful, it feels optional. If it does not produce immediate pride, your mind starts looking for a better use of the afternoon, which is a very persuasive little goblin when it wants to be. So the small habit has to be engineered around your own contempt. That is the whole design problem, not willpower, contempt, which is why people fail in such a familiar, humiliating way. They set a goal at a size that would impress them, if they ever achieved it, then get offended when their nervous system refuses to become a different species on schedule. They want the results of a compounded life, without the embarrassing stage where it looks like nothing. Nobody gets to skip that. The middle is not a detour. It is the road, unfortunately. And the road is full of little traps that do not look like traps. The missed day that becomes a story. The story that becomes a personality. The personality that starts saying things like, I guess, I am just not the kind of person who does this, which is a very dramatic way to describe a Tuesday. The easier move is to make the habit so small that missing it would feel like making a scene over a spoon. Put the savings transfer at 1 percentage point above whatever feels trivial. Write the paragraph that barely counts. Put on the shoes and walk until you are annoyed by how short it is. Let the change be so plain that your inner lawyer gets bored halfway through the objection. That is not weakness, that is strategy. And since we are here, the advice world tends to over-romanticize this part, as though the point were virtue. It is not virtue, it is leverage. 1% shift is not inspirational. It is sneaky. It sidles into the machinery while your attention is elsewhere. That matters because the visible effort is often the wrong thing to reward. The workout that leaves you wrecked may feel honest. The 10-minute one you keep doing for 8 months is the thing that changes your body. The dramatic budgeting purge feels responsible. The automatic increase in savings, the one you barely notice, is the thing that builds the gap. The heroic burst is a firework. The tiny increment is a brick. And yes, bricks are boring, so as not being in a panic later. The funny part is that once the small change starts to compound, people act like it was always obvious. That is a lie we tell after the fact because it flatters our intelligence. In the moment, nobody feels clairvoyant. In the moment, it feels like handling a spoonful of cement, being asked to admire the future. The future is not impressed by your mood. Neither is the middle. It just keeps being the middle until you stop treating it like a mistake. That is the strange mercy of this whole thing. The growth does not need to feel like growth. It only needs to keep happening while your brain complains that it is being underpaid. So the practical move is almost offensively plain. Reduce the daily change until your resistance stops caring, then let it stack. If you want to save more, raise the rate by 1 percentage point, where you can barely feel it. If you want to write and make the first target something your worst afternoon self can still do. If you want to train, begin with a version so short it looks unserious. Unserious is good. Unserious gets to repeat tomorrow. And tomorrow is where the whole thing lives. Not in the surge, not in the vow, in the repeat. In the awkward little continuation that happens after the mood has left the room. That is why the first sign of progress is usually not confidence. It is less resistance. The old habit stops feeling like the only thing in the building. You still want to quit, but now quitting would require a decision instead of a reflex. Tiny difference, massive difference. That is the whole game. You can see why the brain resists this. It wants a visible before and after, not a quiet accumulation of almost nothings. It wants the movie montage. Instead, it gets a week of identical mornings and a bank balance that shifts by a number too small to make a good story. Fine, good. Stories are often the least useful part. What actually changes a life is usually too plain to brag about in real time. The transfer that does not hurt, the page that does not impress, the workout that does not become a personality, the choice to keep going when the middle looks empty, and you feel with annoying sincerity that nothing is happening. Something is happening. Not enough to flatter you, enough to save you. You check the progress bar again, even though it moved 3 seconds ago.